talk about the team because there was some big news that dropped yesterday. I think was it Front Office Sports who dropped it first, but regardless, man, a press release put out by the White Sox on all their socials right now announcing a long-term ownership agreement. Jerry Reinsdorf and Justin Ishba, billionaire Justin Ishba, have reached a long-term agreement that establishes framework for Ishba to obtain a future controlling interest in the White Sox after the 2034 season. Now, Jerry Reinsdorf's statement was having the incredible opportunity to own the Chicago White Sox and be a part of Major League Baseball for nearly 50 years has been a life-changing experience. I've always expressed my intent to operate the White Sox as long as I am able to remain committed to returning the franchise to the level of on-field success we all expect and desire. Now, let's bring up the actual press release that was sent to media. I didn't get this, by the way. I'm not part of the media, but somebody tweeted it out, so shout out to y'all. I know these emails. I get them from the Bears. But this is exactly pretty much what the agreement says. So Chicago White Sox today announced that Jerry Reinsdorf and Justin Ishba have reached the agreement, like I said, through all those different years. Ishba will make, as part of the agreement, Ishba will make capital infusions into the White Sox as a limited partner in 2025 and 2026 that will be used to pay down existing debt and support ongoing operations. And then we also have here the agreement provides from 2029 to 2033. Reinsdorf will have the option to sell the controlling interest to Ishba. After the 2034 season, Ishba will have the option to acquire the controlling interest. In the event of any such future transaction, all limited partners of the Sox will have the opportunity to sell to Ishba at that time. In addition to Justin Ishba, his brother Matt Ishba, and father Jeff Ishba will also be significant investors. There's no assurance that any future transaction will occur, and no event will such transaction take place for 2029. So basically, to put that in English for people who don't understand, Jerry Reinsdorf still owns the show. I feel like there was a lot of bad information yesterday. He still runs the show. This to me, because I went through three different type of emotions yesterday. First, I went from 2034. Are we gonna be alive in 2034? Like we be having 60-degree Christmases. Are we still gonna be in 2034? That was the first one. Then my man Mikey and Dante, they started talking positivity in the group chat. I'm like, all right, I might be starting to feel it. Then this morning I read more and I watched. I think it was David Sampson was on Dan Levitar. And I got back to, I ain't really, think about this. So basically, Jerry's control that the earliest and pending he lives, this because if he dies, obviously all this goes out the window. Justin Ishba will take control, and Michael Reinsdorf will become the official controller owner of the Bulls. The Bulls are going nowhere. They're going to be in that family forever because they are a walking bank. But 2029, if Jerry's still here and he's like, look, I don't want to run a team anymore, he has the option to sell to Ishba. But if he doesn't, 2034, no matter if Jerry's still here and he's 98, even if he feels he can still run it, Justin Ishba's like, nah, this is mine. So to me, there was some who said, he's putting money into the company. Maybe that's going to affect signings. No, that is for the debt that this team has been in the last couple of years.
Mostly,
for losing baseball that they've been having. So I don't really know how to feel. Beef, how do you feel? How do the White Sox fans you've been talking to feeling? Because I'm kind of like, it's whatever right now.
Yeah, we talked about this on the One Way podcast last night. We actually even brought up your tweet that you had out there, Scott, that was like, this is too far out in the future for me to give a shit about it. And my son Summer is in your camp. He's more in your camp. Like we kind of like we had heard little whispers of us that this document got signed or this agreement got signed a couple weeks ago, was in approval for Major League Baseball. And then that's why they press released it when they did, because it kind of did got through its approval. But his thought is more like, yeah, it's a sign. They're moving in the right direction, blah, 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 but it's nothing yet. To me, I think I'm a little more positive about it because I like the idea of the cash infusions. I think it is going to, you're right, it's going to be to pay off debt, but I think there's also a level of it's going to help building up the infrastructure. I don't think they're going to have a big payroll. They ain't going to be shopping for Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette. But maybe they can afford to pay the rest of Andrew Benintendi's salary and get him the fuck out of here. Like that type of stuff, I think, like the nuts and bolts crap that I was worried they might not be able to do because Jerry's run it down into like a poverty franchise and they got no money. There's no TV money. There's, all this shit. At least it feels like, well, they're going to put money in there because this is their future investment and they'll be pushing on that. So from that perspective, there's a little positivity. There's also a little positivity in my mind. No one has said this, but the fact that they're already announcing this and kind of almost letting the Ishbias ride in the sidecar, it almost feels like, yeah, we still have King Jerry. Let's make sure we call it that. It's King Jerry, but it's almost like he's needed power, reinforcement for the organization, right? No one's been excited about anything, right? They launched this memo right at the time when they're putting the CHSN channel on Comcast, right? So it's like they're trying to push the momentum a little bit. And I think when Jerry used to be a player out of the MLB owners, and I think that has kind of faded as he's aged. And I think this gives him like a renewed power. He's got some young guys with cash kind of right by his side there. And so while this isn't a big deal, I don't think from the perspective of, oh yeah, we're changing over, Jerry's gone or whatever, he's still going to have his hands all in this stuff. It does seem like the last 2 years they've pivoted to, yeah, we realize the infrastructure fucking sucks. They hired a bunch of analysts and R&D guys. They're rebuilding the Dominican Academy, right? They seem to be moving forward on. They hired Ryan Fuller as the hitting director. They hired Brian Bannister as the pitching director. The infrastructure stuff is starting to happen. So while this is like, for the casual fan, this ain't shit yet. For someone who is addicted to the White Sox, like, hit me, little by little, we're seeing some buds. It's improving a little bit.
Yeah. Because to me, it's like I posted on my Instagram story the clip of Hawkeye telling Black Widow and I think it was Endgame, "Don't give me hope." That's why I posted. Dante, I know what you were saying in the group chat and stuff, but you have been the beacon of White Sox optimism for us. So what you feeling about this move?
I mean, like I said, I know you joked about how long that tunnel is, but I mean, it's just a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just that little peak we've been waiting for. Like you just said, Beef, when we've been getting, shitty news about this team for the past 2-3 seasons, it's like it's something in the right way. And although, like you said, we won't be major players for free agents right out the gate, the fact that they're making these cash infusions public is to let people know that, essentially we hear what you've been saying. Like we know, like you said, the infrastructure sucks. They need to start putting some, even though I love, I still call it Comiskey, start putting some money into that, fixing it up, just being more modern. Yeah, and just doing things like that. So I know he won't be taking over immediately, but it's just the fact that Jerry, and I think even the fact that they outlined the timeline for us, they didn't have to tell us the exact timeline, but to let us know that 2029 is one of the first seasons you can start to look for a potential change. It probably won't happen, but I also think even though we know how much Jerry has enjoyed making money off this franchise, I think it gets to a point. He is a guy who loves baseball, and when you're like, it's one thing to be a doormat, but when you're like the laughing stock of baseball, I think Jerry hates that. I think he does not like that. He does not like that attached to his name and this franchise in this city. So I think it may get to a point where, like you said, 2029, when he first has that opportunity and things still haven't turned around, these prospects aren't, at least getting them into like a wild card situation where he's like, you know what, you can have it. I still got the Bulls. I still got my cash cow. I'll just, be a minority owner, sit back in the background. You guys run it all. So, I mean, for me, that's really what it is. Like I said, it's a light at the end of the tunnel. No matter how long that tunnel is, we just now have something to look forward to. And if you get, like you said, the Ishbia brothers, there's no guarantee that we're going to win a World Series. But at the same time, if they start taking swings like they did in Phoenix, I'm perfectly fine with that. I've sat here and I watched them, try to penny pinch everybody. So if you spend some money and we don't win, okay, I can give you, we tried, bro. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that sentiment because I've heard people say, well, they're not doing that great of a job running the Suns. And that's fair, right? But NBA and MLB are different. And also, we're White Sox fans. We've been fucking starving over here. We'll take a fucked up signing that you would, like you said, Dante, they at least tried. That's what we need. At least try some shit because they haven't even at least been trying on these big signings,
Yeah, it's you talk about with the Suns, they have a Kevin Durant who, KD's still KD, but he ain't what he used to be. But I think the biggest albatross with Phoenix is the fact they've had 4 coaches in like the last 5 years. And they've got arguably the worst contract in the NBA with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal there was a trade on deck to send him here. And he was like, no, I'm not going. Like, who gives Bradley Beal a no trade clause?
But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Scott. And just in baseball standpoints, as a White Sox fan, I would pray for a Bradley Beal type contract to come to this team just to give me something to watch. Like, please.
So, like, who is that? Who would that be? Like, I'm trying to think of a player that you can get. Like,
I mean,
so you would give Rafael Devers an insane contract. Like
yes, I'm about to say like Devers at the beginning of the season when he was 0 for whatever. Bring him here, please. We'll try to fix it.
We almost did it with Manny Machado, didn't we?
Well, we lowballed him. We gave
him lowball.
We $100 million in incentives.
And they gave it to weak ass family members, which you could have just gave to him. That shit still just
sit my casual ass in the back now.
It still blows my mind. It still blows my mind. But no, but bang from casual. What's your thoughts on this?
Now, let me again stress that I've been a Cubs fan. I mean, I was a Cubs fan at first. Then they snaked me, so I've been a White Sox fan since 1993. So, and I used to be deep into baseball, but between football and age, I have fell out. With that being said, when I look at this deal, I was already skeptical when I started looking at dates and things of that nature. And then when I look at everything, it's like, all right, call me when he takes over the team. However, my only thought was how much, if you know that there's a plan in place to take over the team, how much of an impact will this be in the front office? Like, when do we start seeing a time where the Abisha family starts to have some type of say in some of the things that's going on over the team that they will eventually take over? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm curious if they don't have some sort of say already and aren't starting to get a little bit of a sway because of the things they're doing that are non-Reinsdorfian. It could be what Dante was saying. He was so embarrassed by how bad the team got that he relented to the prospects of, we got to rebuild our Dominican academy. We got to buy all this tech. I heard Brian Bannister on the radio in 670. I don't listen to 670 much, but I heard that there was an interview. So I'm like, all right, I'll check it out. And he was talking about the pitching lab that they've built in Arizona. They got all this technology and shit and the pitching and hitting lab. And that's why they've been sending some of these minor leaguers when they're getting out of, they have a slump or whatever. They just take them out of play. They send them out there for a week or two, work on all their shit, analyze, and then they put them back in the game plan. So this is shit they would never do in the past. Around. It would be Coop's, Coop will fix them bullshit back in the day, right? Now they're using computers and tech, and they got biomechanics and whatever the fuck that means. They're doing a lot of things that, and it's not really showing up yet, right? We're seeing a little better ball at 35th Street, but we're way far away. Like, we don't have the talent yet for you to really see it there, but it does sound like they're doing a lot of non-Reinsdorfian things. And so I wonder how much the Ishbias currently have their hands in this a little bit, and will have it as you go, and how much Reinsdorf, maybe he almost feels like, I'll mentor these guys. I'll bring these guys along. They know things and they're smart, but they're not part of this world, and I'll bring them along in this world. And so I'm curious to see. I don't know, but it feels like there's a little, some fingerprints.
Catch I'm Not Gonna Hold You, hosted by Scott Lewis, every Monday and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, only on HMB Media and the Barbershop Network.